So this lady dies, right? And I have to tell a joke, right? This lady dies and she goes up to heaven, right? And she meets St. Peter at the gates of heaven, and St. Peter meets her there, and she says, St. Peter, what do I have to do to get into heaven? And Peter said, you just spell one word. And she said, okay, what's the word? Peter said, love, L-O-V-E, you're in, right? She gets in. And so she gets in. St. Peter goes away, and he's going on vacation, and he says to her, will you watch the gate for me? She says, sure, I'll watch the gate for you. And a few months later, she's watching the gate, and to her great surprise, her husband dies, and he comes up to the gates. And she says, honey, I can't believe it. I can't believe you're here. She said, well, what happened? How have you been since I died? And he says to her, you won't believe it. I've been amazing. He says, you know that beautiful young nurse who was taking care of you? I married her. And then we've been traveling all over the world, scuba diving, and having the greatest time of my life. We were in the French Alps, and I fell, and I hit a rock, and that's why I'm here. What do I have to do to get in? And she said, you just have to spell one word. He said, what's the word? She said, Czechoslovakia. Hey, the joy of the Lord will be our strength, amen? We got to be joyful today in the Lord. This is what God desires. There's too many things to get us down, amen? Father Dave Pavonka is my spiritual director, so if I say amen a lot, blame it on him. I drive myself crazy with the amen thing, right? But this is what God wants. He wants hearts full of joy. Our God is a God of joy. Mother Teresa said this, the surest sign of a Christian is... Come on, ladies, the word of the day, joy. The surest sign of a Christian is joy. That he wants to fill our hearts with joy, right? Sometimes Father Dave talked about us suppressing. Sometimes we suppress our laughter. How many of you have ever been to New York City? Okay, all of you, okay. So I had never been to, wish I would have known you earlier. I'd never been to New York City. Maybe some of you have heard me tell this story before. Until a few years ago, I was the vocation director for the diocese up until a few months ago. And while I was the vocation director, we used to go once a year and have these conferences. All the vocation directors throughout the country would get together. And one time it was in Long Island. And it was a 4-day conference. And me and a few buddies had never been to New York City. So we decided to skip the last day of the conference. Don't tell Bishop Zubik. We decided to skip the last day of the conference and go into New York City. And I didn't know what to expect, right? I didn't know what to expect. Like being a priest today, it's not like being a priest was 50 years ago. Just ask Father Pavonka. Being a priest today, just kidding. He's back there like, murr. It's not like being a priest was 50 years ago. It can be tough being a priest today, right? It can be tough. I've been spit on. I've been kicked. I've had eggs thrown at me. It was all at a family reunion. So it's not... It's not like, so I didn't know what to expect. New York City, folks, when we got into New York City, there were about 10 of us, all young, handsome priests like me. Thanks for laughing at that. Good for my ego, I guess. We got into New York City, and people were so kind. It was amazing. They were coming up to us, and we weren't blending in. We were all wearing all black, and again, all young priests walking on. And we're walking on, and some people would come up to us, and they ask us for their blessing, and other people would take us aside, and they would ask us to pray with them. And this was really funny. Some tourists, I could tell, like from other countries, they must have been like scared of us or something. They didn't know what we were. So they'd come up real quick and take a picture and then run away, you know. And I imagine them like going back to their country being like, this is what America's like, you know, and us priests like, hey, you know. So we went through Times Square, right? It was just crazy and chaotic. And all of my buddies, they wanted to go, I grew up a sports guy, but I love musicals. They all wanted to go see a musical. So we went to see Les Miserables. How many of you have ever seen Les Mis? I love women's conferences. You're like, we've all seen Les Mis, right? And so if you've ever seen it on the screen or in the theater, or if you've ever read the book, every human experience, I think, is packed into this. Every human, there's war and there's peace and there's violence and there's hope and there's joy and there's despair and there's forgiveness and there's resentment, and every single human emotion that you can experience is just packed into this drama story, right? And if you've seen it, you know the last line kind of sums up the whole thing, right? And it's a dramatic moment, right? The orchestra's like making this great crescendo, and the one guy's dying. I don't know all the characters' names. And the person who he saved, she's like welcoming into heaven, and her daughter's there, and they just got married. So it's this dramatic scene, and I'm like crying. My buddies are like, dude, you crying? The allergies are terrible in here. You know, it's just awful. And then the last line says this, and it just totally blew me apart. It says, to love another person is to see the face of God. When I heard that, I thought, that's it. He got it, right? To love another person is to see the face of God. Ladies, this is what we desire. This is what we want. We all long for God, and we all long to see the face of God. That's what I am made for, and that is what you are made for. It doesn't matter if you're a guy, if you're a girl, if you're old, if you're young. We all desire the same thing. We all desire to see the face of God, right? St. Augustin, you remember St. Augustin in the 300s? He went looking for happiness. He went looking for joy all these different ways: money, power, pleasure, fame. He tried to control his circumstances. He tried to control his family, right? He tried to do all these things to fill his heart. And then when he found God, when he found Jesus through the bishop St. Ambrose in Milan, he wrote, remember in the Confessions, you have made us for yourself, O God. And our hearts are restless until they rest in you. In other words, what he said was, when I found Jesus, I found it. I found what can satisfy the deepest desire of my heart. Nothing else but Jesus. It's infinite love that we desire. My buddy's a grandfather. He has a 5-year-old granddaughter who's, cute as can be, and he was reading a book a few summers ago to her about the stars. And they're on the couch, and she's reading the book. They're both reading, and she's just loving it. They finished a book about the stars, and it was nighttime. And so afterwards, she looked at him and said, Grandpa, can we go look at the stars? And he said, sure, honey. And so she grabbed his hand. You know how they just grab one finger? She grabbed his finger, and she pulled him outside, and they got outside. In God's providence, when they got outside, a shooting star appeared. And she closed her eyes. Little kids do like that. Closed her eyes and squeezed his hand. She says she squeezed his hand so tight, she was making a wish. And after a minute, she opened up her eyes. She looked up at her grandpa. She said, Grandpa, do you want me to tell you what I wish for? He said, sure, honey. What did you wish for? She said, Grandpa, I wish that you would love me forever. Good night, everybody. God bless you. Just kidding. But that's it, right? That's it. That's what we all long for. We all long to be loved forever. Here's the thing. We don't just long to see the face of God like we're seeing a picture. I don't just long to see the face of God like I'm seeing the picture. What is it that I long to see the face of God seeing? Me. That we don't long to see the face of God as if he's like up on a wall and we just stare at him like that, right? That's not the complete story. The complete story is my heart longs to see the face of God seeing me. That's what I'm made for. That heaven, ladies, it's called a beatific vision. That heaven will be me looking at God and him looking back at me for all eternity. This gaze of infinite love where I am just being loved, right? Remember when the sun used to exist, right? It's Pittsburgh. Remember, you go out into the sun, right? I gave a retreat in California a few years ago. And I remember walking off the plane, and I always do retreats in California like January. They're like, when do you want to come, Father? I was like, how about January, And I got off the plane, and the sun hit me, and I just, that's what I long for. That's what you long for with God. I want to see him seeing me. That's the reason that you love romance movies. Because you love that moment where the guy is just gazing into the woman's. That's the reason that and sometimes even our pets, it sounds funny, right? But why do we love our dogs so much? It sounds crazy. Because you open the door and the dog's like, I'm made for you. You complete my existence. I hope that part isn't going to go like on YouTube or something. Like, did he stick his tongue out and act like a dog? He did. But why is it? Because that dog is looking at us it's looking at us with this gaze of love that just lights up our hearts, right? That's why. There's this little girl in my parish, Sophia. She is cute as ever. I just can't stand it. She's so adorable, right? And she loves me. And she's got these pigtails. Every time after Mass, I'm standing in the back greeting people, and I see her running through the aisle. She's come just to hug me. It's so cute, right? Well, I saw her for morning Mass. And then I randomly saw her family in the afternoon. And little Sophia, when she saw me, she got so excited to see me. And her face lit up. And this is what she said. It was so cute. She said, 2 times in one day. I said, oh, well, my heart just melted, right? This is what we long to be gazed at with it 2 times in one day. I was like, I love you. This is what we long for, right? And we see that in little kids, right? My nieces and nephews, when I go over my brothers and sisters, I have 8 nieces and nephews, right? And they all call me Frunkle, combination of father and uncle. They didn't know what to call me, right? So they all call me Frunkle Joe. And I sit on the couch. Can I just stay here forever? I am being affirmed right now. So I go over my, and they look, and then they line up when I'm sitting on the couch, and what do one after another? The oldest one, Frunkle Joe, look at me, right? And so I look at that one, what she do, a cartwheel. And if the next one, Frunkle Joe, look at me. And I look at the next one, and they do a little twirl, right? And then the littlest ones is the best, because they, Frunkle Joe, look at me. And I look at them, what do? And I say, come here. And they run over, and I just grab them and hold them and hug them, and I gaze into their eyes, and they gaze into my. This is what we long for, right? When we get a little older, it doesn't go away. We just know that we're not allowed to say, look at me. We know we're not allowed to do that as adults, right? But we do it, don't we? We do it, right? Athletes today, when they score a touchdown, have you seen this? This is what they do. What are they saying? Look at me, praise me. Tell me I'm awesome, right? You see this a lot in basketball. The names are written on the back of their jerseys. They go like this, right? What are they saying? Call my name, like Father Dave was talking about. Call my name, shout my name, right? It's very evident in society. I used to live on Pitt's campus, right? And the girls on Pitt's campus, when the weather gets warm, the clothes come off, right? You're dressing very, very skimpy. I was walking with my mom one time, and a girl walked by who was dressed very, very skimpily. And my mom turned to me and said, Joe, back in my day, we used to call that underwear, right? And you didn't wear it outside. I was like, I know, Mom, right? What are those girls saying? Look at me. See, that's why I don't get mad about that. I get sad about that, because I want to. I almost said, I want to grab everyone and tell them, like campus security. But they're simply revealing that they want seen. I want to be seen. And the guys, we do it different. We act macho, or we act tough, or we act cool. What are we saying? We're simply saying the same thing. See me. Look at me. Tell me I'm someone. Tell me I'm special. Tell me I'm unique. Tell me I'm beautiful. That's the deepest longing of the human heart, right? We get a little older, and sometimes we do it through a car. My buddy always used to say, before he had a big conversion, he said, I bought a Hummer just so I recognized that people knew that I had enough money to buy a Hummer. What was he saying? Look at me. Our houses, right, and our Facebook pages, right, and the worst, ladies, is our Christmas cards. It's Christmas time, right? It's coming. I get all these cards, and what's every family saying in their portrait? We're perfect, right? Nothing ever goes wrong in this family. They totally crack me up, right? I open the card. Sorry if you send me a Christmas card. But I open the card, and the dad's standing there, and he's got this full head of hair, And he's perfectly dressed, and he looks like a stud, and he's like, yes, I am the king of this castle, And the wife is standing next to him. She's gorgeous, and she's holding him like we've never had an argument, right? And this is how I know it's fake, because the teenage kids are looking at them, and they're like, we're so grateful for all you do for us, And even the dog's standing there like, I'm a dog, I'm like, that's not real. I know it's not real. I hear your confessions, right? It's like, it's like the cover of a magazine. I look at my sister's Christmas card. I love it. My sister Ann has 5 kids under 10 years old. Thank you. She would appreciate that. So I get her Christmas card, and it's just reality. My brother-in-law's losing all his hair. He can't even, you can tell his face is angry. He was just yelling at the kids, get in the picture, right? And my sister has his arm around her, but it's one of those arm arounds like, I hate you so much right now. You know, and then she's very beautiful, but she's getting a little frumpy nowadays. And she... Isn't this a Catholic conference? Mercy, people. You guys are like, over the line, Father. And the kids, my nephews, they're punching each other. You know, one's picking, the dog's biting somebody's leg, you know. I get that card and I'm like, reality. But we don't often do that, right? We often project this image of ourselves, right? Like everything's perfect, like everything's cool. Why? Because we want to be looked at in an affirming way. I long for a gaze of love, and you long for it too. Sometimes this longing in our hearts is so deeply in our hearts that we can become obsessed with receiving the gaze. We can become obsessed with receiving the gaze, and that leads us to grasp to receive the gaze. Sometimes I finish homilies, right? And I'm just waiting for someone to tell me that that was awesome and then that you're wonderful, Father Joe. I'm sitting in the back of the church and people are passing by and they're like, hey, have a good day, Father Joe. You know, and I'm like, And the next person comes by like, hey, pray for the Steelers today, Father Joe. I'm like, You know. And they just keep going by. And then finally someone says, Father, that homily. And I'm like, give it to me. Just tell me how awesome I am. I need it right now. And they're like, that homily last week that Father Bill gave at the other church. It changed my life. And I said, that's wonderful. I hope you never, ever come back again to this church. But we long for this gaze, right? We long for this gaze of love. Well, what are we saying? Please tell me that I'm loved. Please tell me that I'm wanted. Please tell me that I'm special. Please tell me that I'm unique. Please tell me that I'm beautiful. And here's the thing. The recognition, and its word is so important, I think. Recognition comes from cognitio, which means to know. I long to be recognized. I long to be known. This gaze of love that I long for so deeply, right? This desire is an infinite desire, which means the only thing that's going to satisfy it is an infinite love, an infinite gaze. The longing of my heart to be satiated only has one correspondence, and that's the gaze of the love of God. So it doesn't matter how many people tell me how wonderful I am. It doesn't matter how many people say good homily fellowship. It doesn't matter because it will never satisfy. It feels good for a moment, but in the long run, it doesn't satisfy my heart. Why? Listen, because I long to be affirmed in the depths of my being. I long to be affirmed in the deep places, the deepest recesses of my heart. I long to know not that I do things good, but that I'm good. I long to know that it's good that I exist, that it's good that I'm in the world. And the only one who can truly speak to every cell of my body and say, it is good that you exist, is the one who brought me into existence. He's the only one who can satisfy my heart. And many of you have heard my story before. So often we look and we look and we look, and maybe it's this, and maybe it's that, and maybe this person, and maybe if I just get more affirmation, and then maybe if more people will come to my talk, and maybe if I get invited to this speaking engagement, and maybe if my parish loves me. There's my parish right there. And maybe this, and maybe that, and maybe. And I hear him. Joe, it's me. It's me you're looking for, Joe. It's my eyes of love that you long for. In my being, I want to know that I'm good, that I'm special, unique, that I'm loved. I don't want to be loved because I'm smart or I'm funny or I'm handsome. You guys are like, he's an egomaniac. I don't. Peter Kreeft told a story. I'm reading a book right now that's really powerful for me. It's called The God Who Loves You. Check that out if you get a chance. He told a story about his son, his 5-year-old son. And he said his son came to him one time, and he said to him, he said, Dad, why do you love me? And Peter Kreeft said, I thought my son wanted to hear all these things. And so he said, son, I love you because you're a good boy. And you're such a good son to your mom. And I love you because you are such a good brother to your sister. And I love you because you're always obedient to us. He said when he was saying all those things, he saw his son get discouraged. And like that. And he realized, oh, he doesn't want loved for those things. And so he said, son, all those things aside, he said, I love you because you are mine. He said his son just and jumped into his arms. See, he relieved his son's performance anxiety. His son needed to know that his being loved depend on the lover and not on the beloved. I want you to know that your being loved doesn't depend on you. That your being loved depends on him. It depends on the lover. It should relieve us from all performance anxiety. Beautiful song I heard one time. I was driving and talking in Virginia or something. I was driving through West Virginia, randomly listened to the radio. It was late. I was kind of trying to stay awake, had the window down. I heard this chorus. I don't even know the name of the song. But it's this woman longingly singing, who will love me for me? Who will love me for me? Not for what I have done or what I have become. Who will love me for me? That's the way I want to be loved. What I'm convinced about, ladies, is that Jesus wants to speak to your hearts. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now. I'm just convinced that he wants to speak to your hearts right now. We have 15 minutes left. And I know that Jesus wants to heal your hearts. What he wants to say to you is this: I will love you for you. I do love you for you. I do. That's what I've always wanted to say to you. That I just love you for you. Not for what you've done, good or bad. And not for what you've become, good or bad. That it's just you. That I love you for you because you're mine. And before you existed bodily, you existed in the mind of God. Do you know that? That I know there was a time where you didn't exist, right? But in the mind of God, because everything's present to him, you've always existed. And a certain time came where Jesus said, I love the idea of Sally or Kathy or whoever you are. I love the idea of you so much that I want them to be. And here you are. No, I love you for you, not for what you've done. Good or bad, not for what you've become. Good or bad, because I go to church, because I pray the rosary, because I go to Bible study, because I came to this. No. I loved you before that, and I'd love you after it, and I'd love you without it. And then all those things that we do become a response to being loved. We love because he first loved us. Why? I always talk about this. If you've heard me once, you've heard me 1,000 times. Why do I always talk about the love that God has for you? Because it's everything. It's everything. If we miss that, we miss everything. If we get that, we get everything. I become the man I want to be. I become the priest I want to be, to the measure that I allow myself to be loved. To the measure that I accept myself and say, I am lovable. Even when I don't feel like it. Even right after I commit sin, I'm still loved and still lovable. See, God's more like that little girl that said to me 2 times in one day. He's more like that. This sounds bad. God is more, he's more like that dog that when you open the door, he goes, call him Abba, Jesus says. Daddy. That's what he's like. He's thrilled over you. Before my talk, this was kind of cheap. I held a baby. You all clapped. I knew that was going to happen. We're just gushing over this baby, aren't we? What's the baby? Nothing. The baby just exists. Here's the thing. I know it's hard, ladies. I know it's hard. I know it's hard because we've heard so many times from so many different people in so many different ways that we're not lovable, that we're not good enough to be loved, that we're not wanted, that we're not beautiful. Our parents, our spouses, our friends, our siblings, the commercials and billboards, they get you to buy things by saying, you're not who you should be. I saw one coming into Oakland one time. It made me actually cry. I'm a romantic. It said, it was an ad for workout place. It said, give yourself the body you can finally love. And I thought, what a terrible message for all these poor college girls to see. You can't love yourself until you look like this girl on this billboard. No. You can be loved now. We've heard it, right? You're not good enough. You don't deserve it. The sin that I've committed, Father Joe, you don't know it. You don't know how big it is. I can't let myself be loved. I haven't forgiven myself. I'm not beautiful. I'm not special. It's not good that I exist. And what do we do, ladies, with those lies? Mamika was talking about this in the talk before. We take these lies into ourselves and we make them part of us. See, we internalize the external aggressor, because if you've heard enough that you're not loved, that you're not beautiful, that you're not wanted, especially when you're little, what happens is you take those external lies and they become internalized unconsciously, right? And that tape is playing and playing and playing and playing. And what does that tape say? It says you're not loved, you're not worthy of being loved, you're not good. And so we live most of our lives under these lies and we're exhausted, amen? We're exhausted and we wonder why I'm so exhausted. Why am I so exhausted? And so what do? We go to Starbucks and we eat more kale. And it ain't kale, okay? When you're eating kale, Jesus is like, it ain't kale. We live under these lies. And so we live like this. Remember the lady in the Gospels who she was bent over, hunched over for so many years. Love what Zechariah says when John the Baptist is born. It's announcing the birth of Jesus. Zechariah holds up John the Baptist, and he knows it's prefiguring the coming of Jesus, and he says this, blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, because he's come to his people to set them free. He wants to set you free. We take these lies into our minds and hearts, and this is what we do. We see ourselves only through these lies, don't we? We take the glasses of self-hatred, we put them on our eyes, and we see ourselves through these lies. I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad daughter. I'm a worthless person. I'm not good enough. I'm this. I do that wrong. I don't know. And we just beat ourselves up all the time. And then you know what we do? We take that image of ourselves and we project it onto God. And we say, I see myself this way and other people have seen me that way. Therefore, you must see me that way. And God the whole time is going, no, I don't see you like you see you. Please don't put those glasses on me. I don't see you like you see you. God is not angry with us. He's not disappointed in us. He's not looking at us like, failed again. Gave you a chance. Never do anything right. Just always mess up. It's not him. He's not speaking to you like that. He wants to gaze at you with this affirming gaze of love. A friend of mine grew up super poor in the city of Pittsburgh, so poor they used to sleep on the floor, and her mom would open the gate of the oven so that the heat would go by, and she never had a dress as a little girl. Apparently that's a big deal for you guys. She said without her knowing it, one time her father and mom pitched in and got enough material for her to sew a dress. She's my age now, a little younger than me. She's 36. And she said her mom sewed her a dress. And one random morning, her mom gave her the dress. You could imagine. She said she was thrilled out of her mind. She put on this dress. She said her mom and her were just having this great time. She said, but what I wanted most was to see my father seeing me. And her mom knew it. She said, go downstairs. Her dad always sat and read the paper and drank his coffee in the morning. And so she started going down the stairs right in her dress. And her dad puts the paper down, they have a beautiful relationship, put the paper down and he sees her and she's running over to him and he said, oh, stop. Just stand there and let me look at you. She said even now at 36, she can experience this loving gaze of her father penetrating her heart. I want to pray with you now a little bit. Go ahead and close your eyes. I want you just to imagine Jesus right in front of you. The face of Jesus reveals the Father, and so it's Jesus' face, his gaze of love that will satisfy. Just picture the face of Jesus in front of you. Picture his eyes. Picture his beard. Picture his brown hair. Picture him saying to you, I've wanted to have this moment with you for so long. Just me and you. Hear Jesus saying to you, I know what you've been through. I know you're suffering. I know the things that nobody else knows. I know the burdens that you carry. I know the broken relationships and the hurt that they've caused your heart. I know what you've carried. I know. Listen to Jesus and allow your heart to receive his love. Hear him saying to you, I do love you. I am so happy I created you. I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. I see you trying. I've seen all your effort. You are the joy of my heart. You bring my Father so much joy. You are precious and glorious in my sight, and I cannot wait to live with you forever in heaven. Hear him saying to you, this life is so short. This life is so short. Feel him grasping your hands and saying, hang in there. Feel the lies leaving your heart as Jesus speaks his love to you. Feel the anxiety leaving your heart, the fears, the worries. I love you, Jesus says. We just want to stay here for a moment and just receive Jesus' love for us. And Carl and the band are going to just sing that song we said before. And if you If you want to sing along with them, that's great. Or if you want to just be there and just receive and just let his love wash over you, that's fine too. They're going to sing this, and I'm going to pray over you, and then I'll close in prayer.